इससे भी होता है क्या?
Hello, मैं भी बोल रहा हूँ ट्यूटोरियल मीडिया
Good
से। कहाँ पे
afternoon,
हैं?
everyone,
हाँ,
and
आपके पास
welcome
खड़े हैं।
to
आप
our
वहीं से आगे आ जाइए, मैं आ रहा हूँ। जी।
hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our VCM on role of CSR in building India. The Companies Act 2016, which had replaced the Companies Act 1956, has brought about a lot of changes in the area of corporate social responsibility. Corporate social responsibility in India was traditionally a philanthropic activity and was keeping in tune with our Indian traditions. But from the Companies Act 2013, the new act has introduced very far-reaching changes on which has affected the company's formation, administration, governance. The Section 135 of the Companies Act specifically deals with corporate social responsibility. And with this, India has become the first country to legislate the need to undertake CSR activities. And with the Corporate Amendment Act, CSR policy amendment rules in 2021, now it has become the prerogative have changed, and now we have to report, and there are some penalty clauses also introduced. So today CSR has come a long way and has gained a lot of importance. The market leaders, market focus is on the leading organizations, which is now moving towards more sustainable growth and in line with the SDGs. The government of India has made special provisions to utilize CSR funds in specific skills developments, education, social entrepreneurship, social business development, spread of digitalization, and many other activities which are listed in Schedule 7. So the corporate social responsibility is also incorporated in the mission statements in most companies nowadays. But today our prerogative is to see what the government actually wants through these legislations and what we are actually achieving, and any hindrances or anything we want which to be smoothened out rather. So today it is more of a debate, a discussion, for which we have with us eminent faculties. We have the first part will be taken up by Professor Dr. K.K. Upadhyay. He is a widely respected and seasoned development professional with some around 40 years of experience in government and non-profits, academia and corporate. He has been a pivotal part in the CSR journey in India, and the former head of FICCI, Aditya Birla CSR Center of Excellence. Presently, he is the chairperson, Center of Sustainability and CSR, BIMTech. He is a motivational speaker, trainer, and executive coach. He has been bestowed with many awards and accolades, including titles like Sterling 25 by CSR Times, CSR Leader of India, CSR Trainer of the Year 2020, and others. So I welcome Dr. K.K. Upadhyay to take up the first part of the session on the role of CSR in building India. Dr. Upadhyay, please, over to you.
Thank you, Sonali ji. It's always a pleasure to be at Institute of Chartered Accountant of India. We have a long association, and I have learned a lot from you people. The way we have been conducting our CSR certificate course and the changes which have happened over a period of time, the way you changed your course, the way you changed your teaching methods, it has been tremendous. I would like to share a presentation. Let me start my sharing. Sonali ji, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see.
Today we'll be talking about role of corporate social responsibility in building India. Mahatma Gandhi said, the world has enough for everybody's need, but not enough for everybody's greed. The world has moved a lot. The growth of the world economy, right from 1950 to 2050, has been tremendous. But the question arises, our economy is geared above all to achieve growth? Is it really development? Is it really prosperity? Is it really progress? Indian GDP has also grown a lot, especially certain things. They do puzzle we, the development professionals, especially the Nifty and BSI and NSI indexes. This is a tremendous growth. The way it has grown during pandemic, at least most of us are not able to understand. Our GDP has grown. The world economy is growing. And the urbanization is increasing. In 1800, it was 3% urbanized. By 1900, 15%. By 1950, 30%. By 2000, it was 45%. And by 2050, we expect 70%. Some states in India, like Maharashtra, is already 50%. We have a shift from rural to urban. Have the facilities grown like that? Answer is no. Urbanization over a period of time is increasing, and at this point of time, it is increasing at an increased rate. Are we ready for that? 50% of the 70% is yet to be built. On the other hand, global population is increasing. 7 billion today. Predicted to be nearly 9 billion by 2025. In India also, we have grown a lot. In 1947, at the time of freedom struggle, when we got our independence after freedom struggle, we were around 30 crores. Today we are almost 136 crores. Are we prepared for that? Our systems, our economy, our development has to answer that. At the time of independence, 80% was the poverty level. With time, it has grown down all over the world. At present, 12% in the world and 28% in India. Latest figures before the pandemic showed 21%. In 2005-06, when we were 55%, we have gone down to 28%. At present, 21%. But at the same time, the numbers have increased. Why? Because of our increasing population. India, which is ranked at different levels, we are the 5th or 7th by the what standards you take. Economy in the world, after US, China, Japan, Germany. India will be the world's 3rd largest economy by 2027. By 2032, 3 of the world's top 4 economies will be Asian: China, India, and Japan. On my right hand, When I see Global Human Development Index, India is at 130 place. Norway is 1, Switzerland 2nd, Australia 3rd, Ireland, Germany. At the same time, different indexes, we have gone down. India slips 28 places to 140 in Global Gender Gap Index. So on one hand, we have a strong economy. On the other, we are poor. Let me share one more fact with you. Share of the richest 1% in country's wealth. You know how much it is? 53%. And when I talk about 10%, it comes to 76%. On the one hand, 1% own 53% wealth. At the same time, the riches of the richest up to 18%. Rich are becoming more rich. It's a world over phenomenon. Whether you talk about the world or you talk about India, wealth of the rich is going up by almost 18% every year. What is it? It is a big gap. My question to you, will you fly in this plane if it looks like a car? I think the answer is obvious. No. So the world is complex. It's complicated. We are talking about CSR today. CSR is now compulsory, but at the same time, it's very confused. In a complex and complicated world, with a compulsory and confused CSR, where are we heading for? Let me show you a small clip from CII. I hope you are able to hear it. What they are talking about profiteering and creating assets, quality of life, this was a scene from ITC, Ichopal. These are different CSR activities. It's about agriculture, farmers. We are talking about corporate social responsibility from different corporates, about quality of life, empowerment, skills. We were talking about shareholder value. Now we are talking about corporate social responsibility, where stakeholder is the most important person. It's not charity or philanthropy. It's a God-sent opportunity for the corporates to work and give back to society. It's not only doing your duty, it's also working for the country, in empowering country. When I look back, I see at one time till 1914, India was called सोने की चिड़िया. 34% of world's economy trade was from India. Then came whole theory of trusteeship, which Mahatma Gandhi talked about. Do you know? The whole freedom struggle was sponsored by the business. If you go to the history of FICCI, G.G. Birla, who started FICCI, it was for the Indian businessmen, whereas some other associations, they were for the foreigners, for the Britishers. Then the whole industrial revolution, things started changing in terms of economy, in terms of population, in terms of the reach. Then comes the whole theory of PSUs. There are foreign MNCs, and most of the Indian companies also are now MNCs. I call them Indian MMCs. Then what Sonali ji were referring, from 2014 onwards, I call it CSR 4.0. CSR started as a dynasty charity, supported the film struggle. It supported new state launch with lot of rural initiatives. That was the era, 1960, when we had most of the corporate trusts. And till 2013, we had family trusts, private-public partnerships, NGO sponsorship. And in 2013 law, the 2% was introduced. Please understand one thing. The basic question at the heart of CSR are as old as business itself. CSR has been around for a long time. Business and society, they go together. Like Jamshedpur. When the factory was started there, employees came. We had to take care of their education. That's how education program started. Looking after their health. That's how health program started. Then we saw the gap. And we started working with the community. That's how livelihood program started. The original aim of CSR was to make employees healthier and more productive. And philanthropy towards the community, for different needs of the community, and also to certain extent, demands of the community. In an interview, Ratan Tata ji has put it very nicely. He's talking about creating facilities for the employees. Sensitivity becoming a part of the community, not an island. Companies, they have to become part of the community. And allow dignity to the people. Engaging with community, support them. And your work which is uniform for the employees and for the community.
Zoom में open कर दो.
Providing skills to the community. CSR gives you a license to operate. License to operate in a community. In an environment like India, corporate should give more and more towards the society, towards the community.
Sir, I think से जुड़ेगा. कैसे लग? Without.
We need to upgrade the laws. You have to look not only tax the rich, but also how you bring up the poor. What Ratan Tata ji was talking about, we started with a denial theory. John Elkington, he has beautifully put it. We started the denial theory in 60s. We said there's nothing wrong. Even when we were cutting trees, and we had Chipko Andolan and all in Uttarakhand, we were in a denial mode. There's nothing wrong. Then 70s and 80s, the whole era of compliance, the legal provisions. Then came the CSR, giving back to the society. That ended into, by 2010 in social innovation. 2010 onwards, even during this period, most of the philanthropists or the companies, they have been giving towards the social cause, environmental cause, right from Jamshedji Tata, Bill Gates, Henry Wellcome, Warren Buffett, to J.K. Lilly, Syria, and everybody. For us, it's a proud moment that as per a recent report, the top philanthropist for 20th century is Jamshedji Tata. $102 billion Tata and Tata Group has given. Tata Sons to be talked about. Bill Gates gave about 40% of his wealth. Warren Buffett about 30%, $30 billion, about 78% of his wealth. Same has been India also. So please understand business from two angles. One is individual personal responsibility, where a lot of them are doing. Another is corporate social responsibility, where they are contributing to it. Like Premji donates almost 22 crore a day. So does other also. But remember, Milton Friedman said, the business of business is business. The only one responsibility of business towards the society is the maximization of profits to the shareholders with the legal framework and the ethical customs of the country. Two words, legal and ethical. You have to be legal and you have to be ethical. Why we are talking about shareholders? Now we are moving from shareholders to stakeholders. That's how business started for shareholders. When we talk about stakeholders, we talk about customers, we talk about vendors, employees, government. To me, CSR is a bridge between what society requires and what society expects. They work together, society and business. Society needs employment, investment, profit and taxes. Business needs demand, public assets, infrastructure, and legal protection. They are interdependent. They depend on each other. Life of poor versus rich. We always talk about middle class. Middle class and the rich class. Poverty line, below poverty line, and the rich class. Mumbai. We always talk about India versus Bharat. India, where we have been to Chandrama, we had a Chandrayaan, we are the world champions in a lot of things, including milk production, where I have been a part of. But at the same time, as I told you, 21% people live below poverty line, 9% can't meet both ends meal. I call it Bharat. So there's India, there's a Bharat. Can we continue to do business as usual in societies that fail? I think your answer is obvious. No. We can't continue like that. So what is CSR? There are 4 pillars of CSR. We talk about human rights, labor, environment, and corporate governance. How? Ensure employee welfare, engage with stakeholders, promote human rights, and support inclusive growth. When I talk about 2% CSR, I'm talking about supporting inclusive growth. That's how, when I talk broadly about CSR, I talk about human rights, labor, environment, corporate governance. When I talk about 2% CSR, I talk about inclusive growth in an economic, environmental, and social way. I call it ESG. That's where the new law has been a game changer. Companies Act 2013. We started it long back. 2007, we had a inclusion of inclusive growth in 11th 5-year plan, then NVGs, then a committee on bill. We passed the bill by 2014. By 2014, it was a law. What is the difference between law and act? When both House of Parliament pass it, it is a law. When President signs it, it becomes an act. And then through notifications, we bring in lot of parameters. You know all this. The net profit, 1,000 crore turnover, 500 crore net worth. Companies have to do CSR as per the Company Act 2013. In 1920, 21,349 companies did CSR. In 7 years, around 1 lakh crores we have spent on CSR. Let's look back. During these years, these many companies have spent this much money. We didn't have FY20 data. That's why it looks little less. But 18,000 companies did 24,000 plus crores of CSR. Where Maharashtra tops the list, 12,700 crores, about 16%. Karnataka 6%, Gujarat 5%, Tamil Nadu 4%, Odisha 3%. At the same time, let me remind you, very little is done in Northeast, UP, Bihar, even in Maharashtra, Vidarbha. Most of the CSR If you want to analyze it, it goes to Mumbai. Where we spend it? Education, 39%, health, 26%, rural development, about 11%, environment, about 8%, very little in towards the armed forces. 2021 has been a landmark year in CSR journey. 4 things: comply or pay penalty, PM Care Fund, lot of amendments, and the changing landscape. By 2014, with Sachin Pilot, we started in a name or shame manner. You do CSR, or put it on your website why you are not doing it. By 2019, we were in a comply or explain mode. Do it or explain your annual report or website why you are not doing it or how you are doing it. But 2021, we are in a mode of comply or pay penalty. Now, if you don't pay comply, you have to pay penalty. Put it in a unspent account if you don't spend this year, or within 3 years. If you don't spend it, put it in a fund specified under Schedule 7 of Company Act 2013. PM Cares, you all know about it. We had on 27th March 2020. There's a lot going on in the news about it today. Private sector contributed around 5,565 crores and public sector 3,249 crores. They contributed in 2 ways. One, to PM Care Fund, and another towards the activities towards the COVID. About 15,000 crores, 12,000 crores from the private sector, and from the public sector, around 3,000 crores. And then third, lot of amendments. There's a shortage of time. That's why I thought I'll just go for bullets. Annual action plan by CSR board, mandatory disclose on company's website. Company cannot have assets in its name. Carry forward and set off CSR expenditure. Transfer unspent to notified fund. Impact assessment of CSR projects. Mandatory registration. No, whosoever is implementing agency, they have to register with the government. And engagement of international organization is there. Then upgradation of the reporting format. From next year onwards, at this point of time, top 1,000 companies have to report on business responsibility report. From next year onwards, business responsibility and sustainability report. At this point of time, it's a compliance. Multi-year allocation. Firms allowed to set off surplus. A 3-year project impact assessment. And if you don't spend, up to 1 crore penalty to the company or 2 lakhs per officer for non-compliance. The CFO has to certify now that if within the law and as per their policy, annual action plan, and as per the audit required procedure and systems. At this point of time in India, most of the companies, they are producing integrated reporting. They work on ISO 26000. SEBI has made BRR. GRI, a lot of them follow. Now we have Bureau of Indian Standards 26001. Whereas ISO 26000 is a guiding principle, BIS 26001 is a certifiable one. We can now give stars. 1 star, okay. 5 stars, excellent. Going to have auditors for that. And soon we will say what type of CSR you are doing. From a poor economy, during the external rule, we are a rapidly developing economy. Earlier, we were more dependent on external support. That's where an issue is coming up with the civil society. We are getting less of foreign funds now. And you all know about FCRA law. New leadership from Indian industry and civil society is trying to transform it to a developed economy. We are a signatory to Sustainable Development Goals of UN. Niti Aayog follows it. Most of the government programs are based on Sustainable Development Goals now. Just in June, we have released the 3rd report. As per that, we have classified different states into different categories. Kerala tops, and Bihar is at the last. Can she hope to live in developed India with the government and corporate support? Answer is yes. We have aspirations. We want to be a developed economy with the government, with the people, and with all you. A developed economy where business contributes towards the development, with the government, with the civil society, and with the individuals. Let's see a developed country. Corporate social responsibility plays significant role in making provisions like modern and improved training, facilities, education, healthcare, etc. to the underprivileged. During pandemic, contributed 7,000 plus crores to PM Care Fund and also contributed to form PPP kits to now establishing makeshift hospitals, looking after the aspirational districts, partnering for scalability and sustainability with government and civil society, and moving from individual to working together. Thanks a lot. Over to you, Sonali ji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for covering the aspects. Actually, there is a shortage of time. I think we could only touch upon main points there. If you discuss on the topics, is a huge topic. And I would like to tell the members that we are organizing a certificate course on CSR, which would be covering all these details of all this, which Dr. Upadhyay has just said. The laws and regulations, the penalty clauses, everything is covered. So anyone who is interested can join our certificate course, because today we could only cover those things in a bullet point. But thank you, sir. And we have, I think this is not a question, but rather observation from CA Sharad Balkrishna Joshi. He's saying by leveraging efficiency and domain expertise, The private sector indeed has a role to assist the state in achieving its constitutional mandate. The experience and experiment thus far, however, has been a mixed bag. Besides obvious low-ranging gains, CSR is yet to make a dent. Going forward, CSR 4 model may offer that catalyst to transform a way of business. I do agree with what he said. Would you like to give your views on this point, Dr. Upadhyay?
Sure. Nice observation. But please remember one thing. The CSR money, though it looks big, around 16,000 crore this year, but compare it to government development fund, it's not even 1%. Definitely, the spirit was let's leverage efficiency and professional skills of corporate companies to do our development work. But still, we have just begun. We have just started our journey and miles to go and miles to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Upadhyay. And I would now wish to welcome our panel speaker, first panel speaker, Shri Ashwini Kumar. He was ex-general manager of HSE and CSR, BHEL. Currently, he is project mentor, World Hope Foundation, patron of Sankar Foundation Eye Hospital, Visakhapatnam. He is EC member of Lok Swaminathan Sri Sai Seva Nilayam Trust, Hyderabad. He is advisor to ICCSR, Shikhar Organization, Wildlife SOS, UVNAC, Gandhian Forum for Ethical Corporate Governance, Antarrajya Sahyog Parishad, Green Tech Foundation, and others. So I welcome Shri Ashwini Kumar to share his practical experience while implementing the CSR projects in these organizations. Over to you, Mr. Ashwini Kumar.
Ashwini ji, please unmute.
पहले मैं शांत बैठा था क्योंकि आपका प्रेजेंटेशन में तल्लीन था. Again.
Thank you, boss.
Namaskar, and I thank the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India for giving me another opportunity to be meeting our friends and discussing on the panel. So after the presentation of Dr. Upadhyay, nothing more to be added. He has done and made path very easy, but I'll come from my personal experiences. I'll narrate few stories which will make my discussion bit interesting. So as Sonali ji said, I was with BHEL for more than 35-36 years, and my last tenure was heading a function which is called Corporate Social Responsibility and Sustainable Development. And this was introduced when Department of Public Enterprise brought a policy, and our MOU with government had a heavy weightage on these aspects in the year 2010. So 2010, as far as public sector enterprise are concerned, they were bound by Department of Public Enterprise policy. And in the gradual process, this company will came in 2013, implementation in 2014. As Dr. Upadhyay has already given a detailed presentation on what is company will and what is happening there. And it is rather becoming more stringent, I'll say so, because social responsibility is with passion. It is not by compulsion. So if it is going to be with compulsion, more of lip service will be there, and people, what will they do? They will throw money in easy path. So PM Care Fund is one of that. Ganga cleaning is another. Swachh Bharat is another, wherein people find it convenient. No responsibility of any audit, no responsibility of doing anything. And the real mandate of public service is lost in the whole process. Because on one side, we said the corporate or government job is to take care of their own businesses, when for social responsibility, there are extended hands with whom we should collaborate, and we call them NGOs. So NGOs are left dry, high and dry, because funds are not flowing so smoothly. But I will not touch more on that because that is a big subject, but still. And one more thing, Sonali, the presentation or panel discussion becomes more interesting when it becomes face to face. But for the last 2 years or so, I am so used to webinar, and we are all rather busy, 3 to 4 hours on webinar every day, either some yoga class, some laughter yoga class, some meditation, etc., etc. And it is giving a good time pass and rather rejuvenating. So this is also a okay process, but still I would like that feedback should come from the participants, that what they have gained from this program and what they have gained from the input given by panelists. So I'll come to CSR. What is CSR? As already Dr. Upadhyay said, it is not a new thing. And we also know it is not at all a new thing. From our childhood, we see our parents, grandparents, they were doing a lot of social calls, feeding to the birds, feeding to the animals, putting water piyos, etc. in heats, hot season, giving shelter here and there, and contributing for education, social calls, etc. So these are the not new thing. So we categorize, if in Indian culture you find, we call it dan. Dan means donation or contribution. So first comes Vidya Dan, Anna Dan, Vastra Dan, Dhan Dan, Gau Dan, Bhumi Dan, Kanya Dan, Rakt Dan, Netra Dan, Ang Dan. And there is a long list of these dan, and where not corporate, all individuals are associated. So CSR should be made as ISR, which is individual social responsibility. And then only it is going to go to flourish and will have a real impact in the community. Now, sometimes when you are on social network, people call, what do you do? I said, what do you do? I have served the country, served the company for more than 40 years or so. Now I am a free bird, but I am working in the social call. So what is this? I said, I am a member of a network for social change. What do they say? Social change. I said, social change is the thing which I am enjoying. I should see that some part of it others also enjoy. So we talk of next world war or next this thing will be on. Normally answer comes water, but I see it is going to be a war of opportunity, because if opportunity is not there, people will grab, people will not leave. And in pandemic, these situations are already found in many places wherein people are doing such things. And now in developed technology, cybercrime has increased to a great extent, and people are being trapped on social media. Even I was also trapped twice, but somehow I managed and came out. But it is through Facebook, it is through WhatsApp, and all sorts of things are happening. And people try to extort money in one way or other. There will be call, there will be message that you have to update your phone record, you have to update your bank account. And the moment you click their link, you are gone, because they will overpower your SIM card or overpower your desktop, laptop. So we have to be very, very careful in this upgraded technology part of things. Now I will touch upon the CSR impact on our country. That Dr. Upadhyay has already said, and Ravi Sevak ji is there, who is from the field. So I'll just touch upon the main topiks. And luckily, Upadhyay ji and my observations are matching. He said, education max, I endorse. Education, Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan was the drive, education to all. And to promote this, midday meal was introduced so that children from the community, they will have one attraction of coming to the school for a meal at least, which they were deprived of when they were not going to school or at home. So with midday meal introduction, a lot of good things are happening in education, and corporates are also supporting, like Wipro, Airtel, etc., wherein they are mainly focusing on primary education, and which is a fundamental. And then skill is another thing which is very, very important, and it is to be enhanced, and that is only going to give you a better livelihood or so. For that, ITI upgradations and skill and trade for better livelihood. Then computer education in a big way is introduced in schools, as well as enhanced programs through NGOs and social requirements. Then next comes the health. Again, it was in Upadhyayji list also, the second entity which is being addressed. And health, for that, health education, awareness drives, primary health center, secondary health center, routine checkups, etc. are being conducted at various places in schools, in our primary health center, secondary health center, mega camps. Then midday meal to eradicate malnutrition is one thing which is again addressing the health. And another thing from Women and Child Welfare Program is weaning food for lactic mother and children below 5 years. That is very good program which is benefiting the community, the needy community. And then hygiene is another thing which is very much important, and in this a great drive was started by our Prime Minister himself on Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, and toilets, etc., and lakhs crores of toilets are built. But how far they are being used is a question mark, because follow-up is again an issue. And building a toilet, spending 12,000 rupees of government kitty or company kitty does not serve the purpose, because finally you find water is not there, or sewage outlets are not there, so and septic tanks are overflowing. So these things are to be addressed in a big way, and this is going to go a long way. At least awareness is created, that is very, very important. And creating of toilets in schools, especially girls' school, has benefited to a great extent to the girl students. This is one very good point which is taken, and many corporates have also introduced wash programs wherein water, sanitation, and hygiene are being addressed in different way or other. In this, Unilever has rather put a very good business model of their products, Shakti. In that, they have given two facets of it, that better employability or better livelihood drive for the, especially it started with ladies, and then it is going to youths also young, wherein they give their product kit and they sell in the rural interior areas, and then they recoup it, and it is going in a big way. Then sports are there which are being promoted by corporates, and many corporates are giving employment to the upcoming youths, and it is giving a good result. Here sponsoring and employability is there. And next and more thing comes on the gender equality, wherein self-help groups and ladies training and cooperative drive is there, which is again benefiting in a big way. Then policy, etc. are there. Then my experiences with dealing with various NGOs, though Raviji is there, but if he is going to touch, I'll not touch his program, but his program also has a very, very high benefits related to community service, related to health, hygiene, employability, and skill enhancement. These 4 or 5 facets I find in their program also. But I have come across one setup, Katha. Katha is a publication house which publishes stories book, and it creates interest in the children and elders for reading. And they have put the program in many MCD schools, and Delhi government has rather invited them to introduce for more programs, which will create interest in students to read, study, and all that. And then by seeing their acumen, even they have been given the responsibility of training the teachers, so training the trainers. That is one more drive has been given. And they have a good center in South Delhi, Govindpuri. If you see the center, you will find that again, an island of prosperity in a sea of poverty. The school is not less than any Cambridge or any school campus. There they have done rag picker or street children education program. They don't have classroom 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Rather, they have lab system, science lab, English lab, Hindi lab, math lab. So depending on the caliber of the student, they put the different age children in different labs and they educate them as per their caliber. And finally, when they attain certain skills, certain competency, they are given for open school exam and they pass, qualify from the open school, and they are, many of them are very, very good placed also in media houses, in other IT companies. And here their model was in a fix in the beginning. When they were picking these children for education, their parents had some resistance. They said, no, he will do some work at home. He will take care of small children at home. So how can we send them and all? Then they said, okay, small children we can take care. So they opened Banganwadi, Balwadi. So along with these students for whom they want to teach them, they opened Balwadi, and Balwadi small children came. So couple who were working, both were working, they were happy. But some ladies are not working, they were housewives. They said, oh, तुम दोनों बच्चों तीनों बच्चों को ले गए, what will I do? मैं क्या करूँगी दिन भर? तो उन्होंने कहा ओके तुम भी आ जाओ. तो they opened ladies skill center also, where in cutting, tailoring, cookery, and so many things they started there. And it is such a lovely place. I wish you ICAI team visit sometime them and rather take a tour, at least video tour of that place. That is very good. And their products, bakery products, are being even purchased by embassies. They are so much impressed by this drive that they purchase their products. Then second thing I came across is one Shikhar Foundation in, again, Jamia alumni have that. And in that they started, besides girl education, IT lab, etc., a police public library, which is a unique phenomena. In police station, they opened the library for public, which is in the premises, to make a bonding between lawmakers and the public, those who are scared to go to police station or so. So this is very successful model going on. And from this South Delhi model, another 5 centers, 6 centers, they have opened this public police library, and which is very successful. Besides that, they are giving self-defense training along in association with police team, then skills and IT lab is anything. Another appreciable work I find is being done by Wildlife SOS. Wildlife SOS is a group which is the headquarters in Delhi, but they have their rehabilitation centers in 6-7 places in India. Their main task started with Save the Bear, Bhalu Bachao. Bhalu were being rather very cruelly treated by these Madaris Kalandar. They are doing this job for the last 400-500 years or so. So these Madari Kalandar, they used to kill mother bear and pick the cub. And that cub, from the beginning itself, they will put thread in the nail, cut their teeth, cut their nails, etc. And it was rather torturous for the small baby, bear baby, to face all this. Now this drive started to protect this bear from this cruelty. So they have taken more than 600-700 bear from this community. So now these bear are to be rehabilitated because they cannot be sent in the jungle because they are not capable to fight. So now their rehabilitation centers are opened near Agra. There is one wherein more than 200-250 bear are there. And bear also, they have different community, as in human beings, there is a like, dislike. In bear, there is more. So they have made rather compartments for the similar nature bear in different groups, and separate things are there. So now what to do for the Kalandars, Madaris who were doing this Nach Gana in the streets by this bear and all. So they employed those poachers as a protectors. Rather, they were now propagating and protecting wildlife. So one assignment was that they hired so many of them. Second assignment they gave to youth of them for a skill training of automobile, of telecom, etc., etc. And their ladies, they gave training of cutting, tailoring, embroidery, etc. And for their younger ones, they gave free education, schooling. So whole community is getting transformed in the process. So in years to come, say another 25, 30 years, you will find Madari Kalandars will be very well grown in the mainstream of the livelihood. So besides Bhalu, they had drive on elephant also. The elephant who are sick, they were just left, and sometimes elephants were not treated properly. So elephant haven is there near Mathura, wherein more than 25 elephants are being protected and fed, and two Mahavats are there, and they are well cared of. And few elephants, when they brought, their soul were fully with the blood and pus. It was having glass, nails, etc. in their foot sole. So they treated all these animals. And good thing is that many Indians and foreigners especially are very much a wildlife lover, and many of these elephants are adopted by many individuals, and rather they have given their own name to the animal, to the elephant, and it is again a very good drive and is going on. Then next I'll touch upon another model I'll share. मेरे को टाइम का बता दीजिएगा जरा. SSMI, Swami Sivananda Memorial Institute, which is in East Punjabi Bagh, and it is built by a family of Dr. K.L. Rao, who was once irrigation minister in Madam Indira Gandhi time, and his son, Mr. Ashok Rao, who was our colleague in BHEL, he is general secretary there, and the campus is in East Punjabi Bagh, and it is 57-year-old NGO, and without any remark on their performance or so, it is very neat and clean, and I am rather proud to say I am their lifetime member, and these days I am joint treasurer also with them. And they have very good program of midday meal contract from the Delhi government, and they have put a very good drive that midday meal is not a cafeteria meal, it is a community kitchen meal. So they have hired the mothers, sisters of children who are going to school in the vicinity for the kitchen, and they have hired their male members also for distribution. So it is a family kitchen rather than a hotel or any cafeteria food being served to those children. And children are also happy in that community. Jahangirpuri or even Chandigarh they had earlier. Faizabad they gave this model. And this kitchen is working very well. Besides this, Ministry of ICDS, they are supplying 20,000 weaning food, that is multi-grain sattu, to the lactic mother and children below 5 years. And it is very tasty. Rather, sattu made preparations they sell to public, and I buy regularly from them. Then on their health drive, eye care is one major function, vision to all. Switzerland, one doctor drive is there, who is funding SSMI for eye care, cataract surgery, etc. And on back-end partnering is done with AIMS. SSMI and AIMS are conducting these cataract surgeries at AIMS, and funding is coming from Switzerland. Here I like to address that FCRA, Foreign Currency Regulation Act, which has become made more stringent, and it is rather depriving many of NGOs to get foreign funds, because so many formalities are introduced, and account to be opened only in one bank is SBI, this Parliamentary Street, and later reporting to be done by all members of the executive committee and all that. So rather people now feel that why become a member in an NGO executive committee or so, because when so many things are being put on your head, wherein many of the members are giving advisory role. They are not fully involved in the activities, but they are responsible. As Dr. Upadhyay said, that more penal rules are being introduced in the CSR drive, which is not in a good taste. And then one very good example of this SSMI is that we are encouraging internship for the college students also. Even foreign students come for internship to our SSMI. And we have a hostel also there, some 5-6 rooms, wherein they stay also. So students some 5 years back from France, Canada, UK, like Germany, they are coming in a group of 2, 2, 3, 3, and total 6-7 students come every year. So 5-6 years back, one student from France, he was so passionate with our activities, with our work. Then he saw that our cutting tailoring group by brand Suba, they are making very good cloth products, and they are making shopping bags also of cotton. And that time drive was that Save Environment, and Save Environment drive is avoid plastic and use cotton bag, your own bag. So he took few bags from us, and there in France he marketed these bags, and the very first year of his marketing he imported bags worth more than 10 lakh rupees from our SSMI, and last year he imported bags around 1 crore rupee. See the change. It is the involvement that a student came for internship and he was so passionate, and then he took it very passionately and benefited. Win-win situation. Rather, that the students' parents also came last year, and they were so happy with their son drive that yes, you are supporting community in a big way. So it is a very, very nice example of how things are going. In pandemic, rather, he brought orders for mask also. Besides this, I am, as Sonali ma'am told also, I am associated, and rather it is free for all. Shaji ki advice type, no, those who want to seek any guidance, advice. So I am always there with open mind, open heart, and rather earlier it was being propagated, each one teach one, but now it is all teach, all learn. So whatever we have, we should propagate, we should teach, and whatever we get from the community, which is very, very welcome. Then I am associated with disaster issues also. I am with this Sphere group, and wherein they are doing good women service of coordinating with various NGOs, because in disaster you find by the time need is assessed, the damage is done. So rather they are collaborating with many NGOs and putting a matrix that which NGO doing which type of job and which type of drive is required in which segment, and rather their back-end corporate support is there. So from corporate angle, I also participate in their discussions. Besides that, some very good examples are there which I would like to share, which corporate has done. ITC, eChopal is there, which is an excellent example of win-win situation wherein their farmers are so happy with them that at sitting in their house itself, they see the market. Besides that, ITC is one company which is carbon positive, water positive. Rather, they have given very good irrigation methods to farmers, which is saving a lot of water and enriching their crop. And then Unilever, Shakti I mentioned, and Tata, I salute, and Mr. Dr. Upadhyay had showed Mr. Ratan Tata, and 2611, no one can forget. And what Mr. Ratan Tata did, it is a real example to be read by everyone, not only in India, across the globe. Mr. Ratan Tata himself talked to every family member of those who were affected, rather not only the employees, but on the street also. This is the thing which actually touches and motivates everybody. And then Wipro, Airtel, I said education. Then Serum is our vaccine manufacturer, Aadhar Poonawalla. I was listening to news wherein now this students are allowed to go to Canada or various places, but they have to stay in Mexico or elsewhere, quarantine for 14 days, 15 days, and for which money these students are finding it difficult. So Serum Group has created some fund of few crores, and which is facilitating these students to get benefited with these things. Then government support schemes are there, but delays in implementation and funds distribution payment. Even in midday meal also, payments are released by government, though they pay some 6 rupees, 20 paisa, 25 paisa per meal, but they release the fund after 6 months, 7 months. So how NGOs will operate on this? Now, already our Dr. Upadhyay has such economic, environment and society. So business is not only P, it is not only for profit, it is triple P. It is people, planet, and then only profit. So we have to take care of people for whom we are working, and we have to take care of planet, environment, from where we are drawing the resources. We should not damage it so that children of future, which are real owner, say what have we left for them. And CSR is not a corridor talk, it is a matter of boardroom. And it is always better to do it in a collaborative way. And the fraternity who are participating, they are very much connected with not only one industry, many industries, and they should be rather propagating these things of collaborative approach, and with their listening from our deliberations or learning, they should be rather promoting this. So with this, I put a stop on my talk, and thank you very much once again. Sonali ji, back to you.
Thank you, sir, for your detailed deliberations and discussing your experiences in so many organizations. I do agree with you that CSR is not only a corporate social responsibility, but social responsibility is more for the individuals to take care of, and then the corporates.
Yes.
So, and we are looking into this from the ICAI also. We are encouraging our members to come forward and
Silent.
आप म्यूट हो गई हैं। आप सोनाली जी आप म्यूट हो गई।
During the COVID-19 pandemic, we had organized blood donation camps and vaccination camps, and now also we are encouraging members to plant trees.
आपकी आवाज सुनाई नहीं दे रही।
Is it audible now?
Yeah, it's okay now.
Yeah. So now, and we are encouraging our members to plant trees also. We have a target of at least 1 tree per member.
Very good.
And today also, for the members who are present here, I request everyone to plant at least 1 tree and send a snap to csr@icai.in. We are encouraging the members for doing social activities, and we are issuing appreciation certificates for the same. Secondly, as you said, there are a lot of digital, there's a lack of digital education. People are falling into the traps created by fraudsters. We are organizing a seminar next week, next Friday at the same time, on digital education for specifically for the elderly. Am I audible?
Yeah, it's okay.
Yes, you are.
Okay. So specifically for the elderly, we are organizing digital education through the online only, and we will be having some experts to discuss the issues that are being faced and how to protect ourselves from such kind of frauds. So along with that, I have noted some issues that you have pointed out. One is the stringent FCRA regulations, which are causing maybe crisis of funds or difficulties in obtaining foreign funds. Another one is CSR penal rules, that is of course there, and the delay in release of funds. Of course, funds availability is a problem faced by many of the NGOs. I have a question for you, sir. one of the members have asked why company looks within the state boundary to spend CSR. That is why CSR funds are generally spent within the same state. As Dr. Upadhyay has said, that most of the funds are contributed and spent in Maharashtra. Maharashtra is one of the major areas where CSR funds are being utilized. And there are pockets where the funds are being utilized and not evenly spread over. There are areas in India where CSR development or utilization of funds is less. So what is your view on that? Why is it like pocketed in some areas?
No, I'll respond and then others can say that as per policy also they say it should be in the vicinity within some 20 kilometer, 50 kilometer of your presence. But it is again to the individuals. In BHEL, though we have only 17 manufacturing units, which are again pocketed in various states. But I said, no, when it is pan-India, so we should be serving pan-India. And we extended this to our project sites, wherein customer is going to be the real custodian later. But we said, no, our business is customer, so let us make our sites easy. So more than 150 projects we have. So we, from 17, we all of a sudden made to 200 locations. So it is spreading that way. Besides that, I wanted to touch one more point on this. By doing thin CSR activity, real impact is not coming. Rather collaborative approach I touched upon, and wherein I requested ICAI and the chartered accountant teams also, they should be propagating rather the strengths of various corporates in various activities. So India can be divided into 8 or 10 segments, and in those segments, the need also is different in different locations. Some area education is important, some area health is important, some area environment address is more important. So that way, the major corporate can be made the leader there, and others can pool their resources under that umbrella, and in collaboration with local district authorities, etc. These corporate can function for the collective drive of improvement in that vicinities. So then it will not be located in one zone or other zone. It will be spread on pan-India. So that is one idea I rather gave to DP also and Ministry of Corporate Affairs also. I said, why not we make hubs? So now through your channel, I think you can put this forcefully. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. I would
Dr. Upadhyay wants
Dr.
to add
Upadhyay
something.
would be like to add something.
See, there are two things basically. One is a trend. Trend is what you have said. Generally, they spend around their factories or the mining areas. And the second thing is also there, because this is a process just 7-year-old. So they are still taking time to settle down. And 10 pandemic, COVID has broken down a lot of things which they were doing. Now, most of the money is going towards health. In health also, particularly towards, like say, the latest is setting up of makeshift hospitals. When government requests corporates, that's where they spend practically. So I think there are multiple factors at this point of time. And I hope things will improve, as Ashwani ji said. It's going to be for the better. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. With that, we can move on to our next panelist, Sri Ravindra Sevak ji. He is the founder of Safe Water Network in India. Since 2009, he has facilitated around 350 iJal stations or water ATMs in India, which are providing affordable, safe water access to over 1.3 million people and in around 1,000 local livelihoods. He has hands-on experience of more than 30 years in water and waste management operations, bulk water processing, green energy, point-of-use purification systems for the Pepsi vending machines. He had spent a decade at PepsiCo India as its sustainability director. In addition to driving a positive water balance across operations, he cut over 50% of specific water consumption. He has introduced technology-driven solutions to scale up IoT-based remote monitoring systems, automatic dispensing, digital payments, and digital training supported by e-modules. So I would like invite Shri Ravindra Sevakji to put up his views on his experience, share his experience on this topic, please. Over to Ravindra Sevakji.
धन्यवाद सोनाली जी। हमारा धन्यवाद इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स एसोसिएशन को भी जाता है, because without them no NGO today can survive in India. We have 4 CAs who are supporting us. One of them is among the toppers of CA exams, and all their acumen and their powers of complying to the law of the land is tested. I'll take a few minutes in addition to what Sonali ji introduced us. Safe Water Network India not only sets up these safe water stations or water ATMs, which provide 20 liters of treated water that we can drink, our children can drink at ₹5. We also enable people in social entrepreneurship, and about 1,000 livelihoods are created, 30% of which are women. So we train the people from day one in its operation. We ensure the water is safe. We ensure that people who drink that water have good health. And lo and behold, earlier when the women used to go and get the water on their head, in our safe water stations, 93% of the men or boys come and collect the water. And this is to reduce the drudgery of the women, something akin to the earlier years when we were younger. We used to go on a bicycle and get our aata pisa ke aate the. So similarly, pani lene ke liye bhi boys jate hain. They are also a little bit excited about RFID card, use of digital money, so that they can go show it and take the water and come back home. This way, the women are empowered by not wasting their couple of hours only collecting water. 40% of our safe water stations are managed by women, self-help groups, and women entrepreneurs. And this took also almost 4 or 5 years for us to bring them on board and make them learn the tricks of the trade. Many things which the men operators could do, they cannot, or they could not. So we organize the support groups around it so that they can very efficiently do the work which they are doing. Digital engagement was a bit of a challenge. All our plants are remote monitored, IoT enabled, but people are afraid because they're not as well educated to interact. So we had to train up people in digital payments, digital interfaces, even knowing how the plant is operating, how to test it each morning, drink water and see that everything is safe and good. So all those training methods we digitized and ensured that each one of them are in a position to do their work as best as possible. And today, with 99.8% uptime for technical reasons, and if you remove the hari, bimari, shadi and all that, our plants are operating above 98% availability. In rural space, in slums, in these backward areas, which is a very proud thing for us. We also work in the policy space. We had helped, or we had assisted the government in writing Har Ghar Jal in 2017, which is being implemented today with 2 lakh connections a day of piped water in each home. In urban ministry also, some of our team members are sitting for writing the guidelines for Amrut 2.0. Both these projects put together have about 6 lakh crore of outlay. As a small NGO, we have contributed to developing cogent guidelines so that poor can get drinking water, safe drinking water at their home. And another aspect of work that we do is to give technical assistance to Government of Karnataka, who has set up 18,500 water purification plants. So our team sits in the Rural Development Department and manages their tendering, their monitoring, their complaints, their quality, their everything. So a small NGO, with the help of donors and government endorsements, we have been able to achieve this. And today, we also lead a Safe Water Enterprise Alliance, which tries to unshackle the sector and get safe water to more and more people through enterprise. And we have people, the first donor was Ratan Tata Trust, BHL has been our donor, US government through US aid, Japanese government, similarly Australia, Macquarie, US corporations like PepsiCo, Honeywell, Merck Foundation, etc., and Pentair Foundation have supported us. We are grateful to all of them. So I come to the topic of discussion today. What is the challenge that the NGO world faces today in managing in the recently promulgated CSR rules? The CSR rules see to it that you use your funds every year. Although it talks about long-term project, 3-year project, you can define as a policy, but still most of the private companies or PSUs do not commit long-term funds, and they commit 1-year funds and force or ensure that you consume all that money. And that becomes extremely tough, that you are getting money in, say, April, and you have to finish everything by March. And there is a very, very fine balance that you have to run, because you don't know whether the next year money will come from the same corporate or not. So NGOs face this difficulty of long-term visibility to funding. And any spillover has to be very, very quickly either utilized, explained, or very quickly corrected. So that's a challenge in NGO world. If something like COVID hits, then suddenly you are on back against the wall. All our stations were functioning with the same 99% availability, but we could not expand at the same pace because the labor had gone. There was a shutdown. For arranging a curfew pass, we had to take 15 days for our technicians. So there was a lot of challenge which we faced in expansions. And in this CSR, because the corporates have to ensure their utilization, report it to the Ministry of Commerce and all that, that what they have done, and on their website, they take us more as a contractor, that you got to take this, finish it, give it a report, and be done with it. Now that makes our life more difficult. We need to be treated like partners, so that whatever are our social issues or challenges, there the corporates come together and try and solve it along with us. We are not trying to pass on the buck to them, but it helps. Like, for example, BHEL taught us that try and identify each and every customer of yours. Ashwini ji asked that see to it, the plants that we have put up are not only functional, but the consumer is happy. So we recorded each and every consumer's reaction, etc., in the impact analysis and submitted it. The issue happens that most of the corporates give 1 or 2 or 3 years of funding. But if you remove your supervision, help, technical support, or the service support, then there is a very, very good euphemism which says that you exit the program, handing over the program to the beneficiary. And in most of these, we find that the moment the NGO which is supporting or supervising exits, those programs fail, which comes under the name of fit and forget. You see, people like to use it, they like to report it, and then after the tick mark is done, voila, they disappear. And when they disappear, the community does not have money for spares, high value spares, they don't have competencies, For example, COVID came. We converted all our stations into RFID enabled and digital payment enabled. Now, if we were not there, would they have been able to do it on themselves? They didn't have the capex. We had the reserves, so we used it. We had one of the generous donors who helped us do it. But if it were not there, who would have put up the hand wash stations? Who would have put up the digital payment gateway, etc. for them? So I think there should be a reasonable amount which is left for the sustenance of the programs going forward. It should not be fit and forget. It should not be capex focus. It should not be a tick mark. Then coming to the foreign entities. Although FCRA, let me report with pride, on 29th of September 2020, the new law came. We were the first NGO in the country on 16th October to open the FCRA account in SBI branch of Satsapal, because of my very good chartered accountants, very good compliance. Everything to the last T was with us, including all our trustees' documentation and their transparency, willingness to be sharing each and everything that they have. And still, there is an issue with the corporates who are in India. Technically, as per law, once you are earning money in India, it does not fall under FCRA. But they are afraid. They think that if tomorrow anything happens or change in the program happens or change in the FCRA law happens, they ensure that you have all the compliances of FCRA. And then the new FCRA law also does not permit a subcontract to another NGO, which means all the work that you take, we used to do it ourselves and we are still doing it ourselves. But many other NGOs who used to get it done, work done through others, they are finding it difficult. Similarly, the law which is saying that no spillover to the next year or the money to be immediately deposited, etc., unused funds, etc., within 30 days. You see, that also puts a lot of pressure on the relationship of company and the NGO. Because NGO, although this law is for the corporates, not for the NGO. NGO, if we are a multi-year project, then we can utilize it within 3 years. That's not something which is prohibited by even the new laws. But that makes also people very jumpy, especially the directors who have penal requirements as of today, if they are not utilizing their CSR funds. I'll also come to the next part of the discussion which Sonali ji briefed us. What is the NGO's role in SDGs? India is progressing well on the SDGs front. From 2019 to 20, we had a 6-point jump from a score index of 60 to 66. However, government may spend lakhs of crores of money in alleviating poverty, bringing the water to home, bringing toilets to home, but their sustenance hinges on people adopting them well, people maintaining them well, and sustenance is also upon your social audits, your capacity building, monitoring of projects, impact analysis, educating the people in utilization and the best utilization thereof, highlighting any deviation or the challenges which are there so that the government is informed and the community also takes on that responsibility. So NGOs do not disappear just because government has put some infrastructure in place. Because we have seen, for example, I am a water guy for 30 years. I can give you an example of water. Each one of us has a filter at home. We have a piped water. We open the tap and the water comes. But still we have filter. Why do we have filter? Because the government supply of water is 1 hour in the morning, half an hour in the evening. Balance 22.5 hours, the pipe is empty. When the pipe is empty and it rains, or the sewer is running parallel to it, it leaks, and your pipe leaks because it's 50-year-old, 30-year-old, 14-year-old, and in city of Delhi, 14,000 kilometers of piping is there or more. In Hyderabad, it's 9,000 kilometers. So it's not possible that something which was laid down by Tipu Sultan is still not leaking. So when 22 hours there's no water in that pipe, there will be leakages which will recontaminate water. And hence, you and I have filters at home for polishing the water, for making it safe for drinking. However, the same benefit is not there with the rural masses. So they need to be also provided similar safety. I will now ask Sonali ji if there are any questions, or how much more time is there, if at all. Otherwise, I will leave it to you, Sonali ji.
No,
Thank
sir,
you.
you can continue. You can continue.
Okay. So another issue which I feel with the NGOs world is about the corporates wanting you to go, which Sonali ji had asked, to their geography. Now, if there are separate 5 donors for me, one wants me in Gujarat, another in Vidarbha, another in Telangana, and 5th one is Karnataka, 6th one in UP, and 7th in, say, AP. How does a small NGO like us, I'm saying small meaning I am also a turnover of 10 to 15 crores or in that range, 15 crore range, but still, to operate in 7 states, engage with 7 sets of bureaucracies, ministries, because to facilitate, get the license to operate, we go top down. We get the endorsement of the Ministry of Jal Shakti as key resource center. We are the implementation support agency of the ministry. But in addition to that, you go to a state, go and get the approval of the ministers or these respective principal secretaries. So if we have to operate in 7 states and some donors give 1 crore, some donors give only 50 lakhs, how can we operate in these so many diverse geographies when we are very small? So the demand that happens from the donors that you work next to my factory makes it extremely difficult, because if they give us a grant for a year or 2, what do we do then thereafter to maintain our plants? That may be, say, 10 years old or 12 years old, they are still functioning. But we need to generate certain alternative revenue streams or donors. For example, this year during COVID, we had no funding. Suddenly, all the funding went to COVID. Even the data which Professor Upadhyay shared, that showed less than 1% of money coming to drinking water. So with COVID coming in, there was no money coming to drinking water. My both daughters are in Google. My principals are in New York. Or both of them put in their might and raised close to, say, $204,000, about 1.5 crores, so that we can continue the services to the existing plants, which were funded by the other corporates in India. Now, if we didn't have that, what would we have done? We would have had to not only shrink our people who have been with us and doing fabulous work for the last decade, but also there would be some of the stations which we put up will fall under the fit and forget model. So that is not something that should be allowed. And people who have provided support for installing a capital or a facility, they should be cognizant of that and providing continuous support, multi-year support for NGOs like us to survive. So from the NGO side, I think donors also have certain challenges. A lot of NGOs are not equipped to report on the formats that are being asked today. We have 4 CAs. Imagine in a 30 or 35 people NGO. If we didn't have that, would we be able to comply to all the formats, all the formats filing on time? Probably not. How many of us, if we didn't have a M&E head for 7 years, be able to submit the donor reports on time, month in and month out? both financials and both this thing. We have financial balance sheet and P&L for all the 350 stations to know who is paying their operator or not, etc. Not that we are responsible. They are social entrepreneurs. They are SHGs. They are responsible, but they should be complying to the law of the land. So we phone a friend and tell them that you have to pay the operator, you have to pay the electricity bill, etc. So for that, we need a lot of resources to maintain M&E for the field and for the donors. And that's a big, big challenge. Similarly, community, many estates thinks that if NGO is coming, it should be free. In fact, some of the extreme red thinking institutions, I won't name them, say, why are you even charging 5 rupees for 20 liters? Here, they will go to the market and pay 20 rupees for 1 liter. But when we, for recovering the basic cost of operation, charge 5 rupees for 20 liters of purified water, they object to it, saying, no, NGO should be free. So that kind of mindset also among a lot of institutions or donors is slightly detrimental.
No, Sonali ji, I want to just add one thing.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
No, on FCRA, as I mentioned, it is though made stringent or whatever, though our one of the institute, SSMI, has also fulfilled all the document. But as Raviji said, that NGO has to do upfront themselves. But now our fund is for eye care, and we are not expert in Medicare. So we are taking collaboration with AIMS. AIMS being government entity, and rather they are also bold. They said no one will ask us. But people may ask us that you have not done fund utilization at our own. So such queries somebody may put tomorrow. So these are the hiccups.
Yes.
So these are the hiccups. But AIMS,
I think the exception is made for the government hospital, sir. We also checked during COVID. So we were told that if you are engaging a government hospital, then you may not be asked. But however, if you go to any other hospital, then they may be, but there is no written clarification.
So that is one thing. Okay, our executive committee member, trust board member, though they have also given the document of PAN card, Aadhaar card, this, that, without thinking ki tomorrow if some query comes, all of that, you will come in tomorrow, they will say, we don't want to come into, because majority of them are senior citizens.
Very correct.
Yeah. So this was my observation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. There was a very good discussion and deliberations, and I have noted the points raised by all of you. And in the future, when we are communicating with the authorities, we'll surely try and put that in somewhere. So, but there is one question from one of the members. What is the percentage of efficacy and effectiveness of CSR funds in India? Are the funds really employed for the purpose that they were contributed for? I would like Dr. Upadhyay to speak on this because he had some facts and figures on this. Could you kindly elaborate on this, Dr. Upadhyay?
There has been few studies on this. It says that the efficacy has been around 70%. But as I said, it's an evolving field. And second thing is also there's a lot of confusion. When we started CSR, the spirit was let the company decide. The board of directors should decide where they want to put funds. Then slowly we had a bombardment of notifications. And then 22nd January 2021, we had what you call a lot of compliance related things. So at this point of time, most of the people are confused. And some of people, they are little, as Raviji were also saying, though I don't have much experience at this point of time with the NGOs, but at least in corporate, some of the people are really little afraid. As you said with FCRA, Raviji, कि भाई हम लोग कर ले तो though it doesn't say anywhere, law doesn't say anywhere, CA doesn't say anywhere कि अगर आपको Indian money Indian NGO को देनी है तो you need a FCRA. but still people ask for it. And with now CSR 1 form becoming mandatory, which indirectly means that NGO must have a 12A and 80G and registration with CSR 1. So indirectly you are asking for a lot of things now. So like a small thing, like say, it's not clear to a CSR foundation of a company, do they need CSR 1 or not? Technically they should, but law doesn't say it anywhere. So these are small nuances which are still not very clear. So to answer to your question is, yes, efficiency has increased over a period of time, but a lot needs to be done. We need more discussions like this and more clarity, where you have people like Ashwani ji and Ravi ji who have hands-on experience. Thanks a lot.
Sonalji, I would like to add another point.
Yes, sir, please.
You see, the government or the auditors who come in, they think that the NGO employees should live on fresh air and go around on bullock carts. Any good salary they see, their eyes pop out. How can I get good corporate citizens and good corporate, say, chartered accountants, good people, if I am expected to pay peanuts to them? There was a saying way back when I was hired from IIM Ahmedabad to Tata Enterprise. The HR head used to say, when you give peanuts, you get only monkeys. So the issue is, if you want good outcomes from the NGOs, they should allow good remuneration also to the staff.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, I do agree with you. But what I feel, this thinking is changing for the better, and there are some NGOs who are paying well. And of course, if you are not paying well, you won't be able to get the output. That is true, and I hope this.
I'm talking from the auditor's perspective or income tax department's perspective. You see, auditors still come and say, "Oh, I see." You see, and that's where the tax department also has that kind of a mindset. If you are in social sector, you should be only driving around on bullock cart. And one CA, Bhavi CA came and said, "You are traveling in car when there is a train between the two junctions?" I said, "Timing, morning, you come, take the car, come." No. I will go by train and show you how trains can be used. You see, I have also used trains, but again, that kind of a mindset among the auditors or the donors, and also each donor sends someone, auditor. Meaning, I will have EY, I will have Grant Thornton, I'll have all the bigwigs in the audit world auditing us. So then it becomes so difficult for NGOs to survive, and there is one whole room always kept for surprise audits of the donors. Okay, sorry for this rant, but I thought थोड़ा दुख शेयर करने से कम होता है, ऐसा सुनते हैं, और आप लोग चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट
Ashwini ji, would you like to add something to this? And then we'll wind up.
Yeah, no, it's okay. That efficacy and efficiency, yes, it is improving day by day. And accountability, when it is there, rather the basic theme of policy is that it should be projectized, and clear impact assessment should be made. So once this thing is there, automatically utilization and reporting has to be pakka. Only some 5 to 10% is allowed as a philanthropy or something. Rest 90% is to be used on project basis. And as Raviji said, every machine has full record, full data of beneficiaries, full data of its recovery, full data of expenditure. So if such NGOs are there, then automatically things are visible and it is going to give a good impact, transparency.
Thank you, sir. So I would like to conclude here. We don't have any further questions from the members. I think that was a very comprehensive discussions, and a lot of points were raised during the discussions, and valid points, valid issues were raised. And we hope to hold such further panel discussions in the future where we will be involving you and other panelists. So we request your participation in our future programs also. So thank you, all of you. Thank you for your presentations and deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonali ji. Ravi ji, enjoyed your presentation, and Ashwani ji, it's always a pleasure to meet you and talk to you.
आपका भी बहुत अच्छा प्रेजेंटेशन था, मैंने देख लिया, थोड़ा बहुत चुरा भी लिया है, परंतु अगर शेयर कर देंगे तो अच्छा रहेगा.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
And please send a link, Sonali ji, if you post it online.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Thank
Okay,
you.
sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Greetings.
Greetings.